I used to be a semi-professional Hearthstone player.
Very well played by Steve thus far. This is Steve actually prepping to just all-out win.
Steve found just an absolutely monstrous play.
Steve read this move like a book, and that was...
I fell in love with the beta in elementary school and kept playing at a very high level all throughout high school. When I finally went away to college, they were recruiting for a Hearthstone team. I tried out and was awarded quite a generous scholarship. For 2 years, I was back-to-back team captain, 2019 MVP, and as a team, we were winning prizes left, right, and center. However, a certain worldwide virus hit, which meant no more in-person tournaments, and I decided to take up a job coaching Hearthstone for 2 more years. Great, so what's the point of this lore dump? I love card games. I've probably played every TCG under the sun, except for Elder Scrolls. I don't know why. You'd think it'd be a great mix, but I never even knew it existed. Legends has a reputation of being too free-to-play friendly, perhaps leading to a lack of advertising or promotion to people like me, the embodiment of their target demographic. Whether it's due to marketing, bad game balance, or lack of funds, ultimately the Elder Scrolls Legends announced its closure on January 31st, and if all goes according to plan, that was yesterday. Back in October, I mentioned in one of my videos I was vaguely interested in trying it out, and luckily, you guys informed me, I didn't have much time left. Right away, I got to work making this video, knowing I was already against the clock. Originally, the plan was to put in 10 hours of playtime, make a video, and call it a day, but those 10 hours very quickly turned into over 250. But let's take a step back. Once I heard the closure of Legends was imminent, I scrambled to get my hands on the game. And that was the first challenge, actually getting the game. It had been completely delisted off of all of its platforms, making it impossible to download unless you previously owned it, which I did not. It was available on Google Play, but only on old versions of Android from almost 5 years ago, when the game stopped getting updates. Because of this, my devices were too new to run it, and the only successful method I found was to use the BlueStacks emulator. With the emulator, I was able to select an old version of Android firmware and download it from the App Store. Unfortunately, this means it's packaged with all the bugs and glitches from that last update, several years ago. Because of this, I experienced quite a bit of freezing and crashing when opening rewards, but the gameplay itself didn't crash, and that was good enough for me. I only had about 14 weeks to play, and you can bet your ass I was going to use them. Starting off strong, this TCG has a cinematic story for you to play through, with cutscenes, impactful choices for rewards, and a developing narrative as you learn the game. I've played lots of card games. I doubt there's a single person watching this video who has more hours on digital TCGs than myself, but this is a fantastic tutorial. As I begin to learn about the game, the parallels between the Elder Scrolls Legends and Hearthstone become apparent, and it's quite easy for me to adjust. Now, I haven't played Hearthstone since 2022, but Legends has quite a few keywords that are kind of identical, some of them quite self-explanatory. Charge is charge, the unit gets to attack right away. Silence is silence, the unit loses all abilities and modifiers. Lethal is poisonous, guard is taunt, ward is divine shield, shackle is freeze, drain is lifesteal, last grasp is death rattle. You get the point. It was very easy for me to pick up. Now, there are a few major differences between these two games. One is that Legends is a 2-lane card game. Units in the left lane can't hit units in the right lane. The right lane also has a special buff called the Shadow buff, giving your units stealth when summoned there. At least, that's the name for that mechanic in Hearthstone. Another massive difference is that Legends has a catch-up mechanic called runes. For every 5 HP you lose, a rune is broken, and you get to draw a card, giving you more resources for being under pressure. There are tactical situations where you may choose to withhold an attack to prevent your opponent from popping a rune. This took my Hearthstone smork brain a few days to understand. For the remainder of week 1 and slowly creeping into week 2, I spent the bulk of my time doing the main campaign and collecting all the cards I could. I think due to the game being shut down, everything is 1 gold, so I would spend hours just mass opening packs to fill up my collection. However, there are several cards you cannot get from packs. They must be obtained from PvE. This is different from Hearthstone. Back in the day, Hearthstone released some banger adventures, Blackrock, Noxuramas, etc. But if you didn't want to buy that PvE content, you could still craft the cards. That's not the case for Legends. You must do the PvE content to obtain those cards. And oh my god, do these take a while, especially for a new player. Over the course of weeks 3 and 4, I went on to play around 30 PvP games with 23 wins and 7 losses. I'm not super sure if my win rate is this high just because it's low elo, or if Legends uses bots in low MMR like Hearthstone. But keep in mind, the only PvE content I've completed so far is the main campaign and one solo arena run to get this exclusive card, but that's just a drop in the bucket. I was still missing a lot of powerful cards, which definitely affected my ability to make solid decks for ladder. Speaking of, Matchfinder was surprisingly quick for a game on death's door, and I was still doing somewhat well, but I kept losing to 2 specific decks: Pilfer and Invade. What's that, you may ask? Let me break it down for you. Pilfer is an incredibly aggressive snowbally keyword, where every time you attack the opponent's face, I don't know what this area is called in Legends, you get an added effect. Some of these can be fairly harmless, but those aren't included in the decks you'll face on ladder. The bigger problem is Invade, and as far as I can tell, it's just broken and it shouldn't be in the game as it is. To merely understand the sheer scale of how overpowered this archetype is, I need to explain the fundamentals of these types of card games. There are many TCGs out there with the classic 3-stat card design: cost, attack, and health. It was popularized by Magic the Gathering and is a staple of many games today. What I want to talk about are premium statted units. The definition of this descriptor changes from game to game, but generally, the unit should have more than double its cost and stats. A 2-cost unit should have 4 points into its stat line minimum. That could be 2 health 2 attack, 1 health 3 attack, or even 0 attack 4 health. These all add up to 4, which would make this 2-cost card neutral in terms of stats. If it goes over the 4 stat points, it would be considered premium. If it goes under, understated. Generally, if the card is understated, it's because the effect it provides is powerful enough to offset the loss of the stat line. Pretty simple. The issue with Invade is that the keyword itself generates stats out of thin air. Let's take a look at this 2-cost unit. Remember what we just spoke about? A 2-cost unit should have about 4 points into its stat line. This has 1 plus 4, a total of 5. Balance-wise, that would be considered a decent stat line for a 2-cost unit. However, it also has this neat little text saying that when it's played, it invades. If this is the first Invade card to be played, it summons a 0/4 Oblivion portal. So, if you're keeping up, that's 9 total stat points for the cost of 2. But we're not even done yet. That portal you summoned gives bonus stats to every Daedra unit you play after. This was just the first upgrade to our portal, so it's a basic +1 health to each unit. But these upgrades start getting exponentially better as time goes on. So to summarize, this 2-cost unit outputs roughly 10 stat points by playing it. In a normal card game, you'd expect that stat line on a 5, maybe 4-cost unit. The problem is, the Elder Scrolls Legends is a normal card game. Most of the cards abide by this golden rule to maintain some semblance of balance. Invade completely bypasses it. Even if you played Invade after another Invade card, it's still just as good. You get to inherit the bonus of the current level of your portal and give it +2 health and upgrade it further. This portal gives stat bonuses, reduces the cost of cards in your hand, and adds random keywords like charge. Why? This 2-cost unit isn't even the best Invade card. It's actually mid compared to some of the others. It's a popular notion in the veteran Legends community that this keyword killed the game. Oh my god, it's fucking Invade. It is so outlandishly powerful, it killed a lot of the competition for viable decks. Anyway, is Pilfer powerful? Yes. Is Invade super giga OP insane? Also, yes, but both of these decks do tend to lose to a hard control style deck. So I wanted to try a slower control style list, but everything I was finding online required powerful cards from the other 3 PvE storylines, which I hadn't done yet. Cards that would take hours and hours for me to obtain. So that's exactly what I did. Over the course of the entirety of November and December, I obtained every single card the Elder Scrolls Legends has. Again, not only do I have a real 9-to-5 job, but I was also making other videos for YouTube, so my playtime was confined to an hour or 2 a day. And to make matters worse, I did not start this out on the right foot. Remember how I said Invade was just plain broken, and I hated coming up against it on ladder? Well, it turns out it's mighty efficient at beating the cheeks off the AI in the PvE modes. Why? Because even when the AI are given ridiculous bonuses, they still can't compete against Invade. Originally, when doing the Dark Brotherhood story, I was losing a lot. I had to back out, I had to change my deck a little, and try again to obtain any advantage I could. This ate up a lot of time. It took me 3 weeks to beat the entirety of the Dark Brotherhood story. Clockwork City and the Isle of Madness took me 2 weeks combined. Why were these two so much faster? Because I used one Invade deck and stomped everything. An Invade deck I made myself, by the way. If this doesn't prove that the keyword is a little overtuned, don't worry, we'll talk more about it later. Now, this is my last interaction with the PvE of the Elder Scrolls Legends. I say this without hyperbole, but it has one of, if not the most robust PvE content system I've ever played in any online TCG. Although I think technically Legends would be considered a CCG, not TCG. It is a damn shame that when Elder Scrolls Legends is taken offline, all the story content is going with it. I didn't even touch the master level missions, but I'd guess this game has over 150 hours of PvE content for completely free, and it's good content. In the Clockwork City, you learn more about Sotha Seal's final hours than you ever do in Tribunal. You get these very interesting insights to characters you otherwise don't know much about, and I think that's awesome. A bunch of the Legends community have been hard at work archiving these amazing stories, so if you're interested in all the cinematics and world building, I'll link the ones on screen down below. These final 4 weeks took place over the entirety of the month of January. Through sweat and tears, I had obtained every card in this game. I had easily logged over 100 hours of gameplay, and it was time to devote my mind and body to the ranked ladder. For those 4 weeks, I played a minimum of 5 matches a day. To ensure my final conclusion of this game is as accurate as it can be, I have comprised a Google Sheet of all the decks I used and their respective win rates. Link is in the description if for some reason you want to check it out. Alas, we begin. New Year's. I was sitting, patiently waiting for the clock to strike 12 so I could begin this colossal challenge, and I immediately lost 4 times in a row with some deck I made myself. Okay, maybe that's not the strat. I hopped in a call with a couple pillars of the community, Alexis and Thin White Duke, who gave me some decks that weren't complete garbage to use. They walked me through some mechanics and keywords I've never seen before, and generously sat with me for several hours on New Year's.
Yeah, ever since I've been playing today, I haven't faced a pilfer, but those guys just like zip around all the lanes.
Yup. Yeah.
I learned some pretty important information from this call. 1, these pips in the top actually mean something. They correlate to the opponent's deck size and theme. Red-purple is called Warrior, which obviously means they can only use red-purple cards, but that tends to be almost always aggro. Yellow-blue is Mage, which is generally control. Red-blue-purple is Daggerfall Covenant, and so on. There are loads of combinations, but knowing what decks play which colors can really help with your mulligan. Over these 4 weeks, I slowly pick up this information, but there's too many combinations for me to understand right away. Because I'm so unfamiliar with the meta, Thin White Duke suggested an Orc list that usually wins before some of these crazy decks can really take off. And trust me, some of the combos in this game are literally insane. Halfway through January, I was rank 5. I had played over 50 games exclusively with this Orc deck, but it was time for a little change. I wanted to experience the 4 pillars of decks. Aggro, which I'd already accomplished with my Orc deck, mid-range, control, and combo. Combo can also be referred to as OTK or Exodia, depending on which TCG you come from. I wanted a solid list for each of these themes so I could try my hand in each archetype. As the final week of January approached, I was still rank 5. I had petered out with a 50% win rate at this level and just couldn't seem to climb out of it. I'm still getting in my games each day, but in order to get this video out on time, I had to start editing. I'd assumed I'd get a high rank with relative ease, and I don't think rank 5 counts, but you guys can let me know in the comments. As an ex-professional Hearthstone player, the Elder Scrolls Legends surprised me. I deeply regret not picking up this game earlier, specifically on Steam, so I would have had a stable version of the client to play, but perhaps more importantly, it's a damn good card game. I have played my fair share of TCGs, more than what most people would consider healthy. Legends was something special. The PvE story content in this game is unrivaled. I don't think I've ever touched a game that comes close to it in terms of world building, voice acting, depth of gameplay, however you'd like to spin it. Of course, part of that is because it's built on an existing fantasy universe, but so is Hearthstone. I just think Legends did something special, and it's a horrible crime that the PvE will be going offline with the rest of the game. That's just really unfortunate. As far as the actual gameplay goes, it's probably one of my favorites. I love multi-lane card games because it adds an extra layer of skill to regular gameplay. It's almost like you're playing multiple games at once. Additionally, I did also enjoy the fact that Legends is fairly low on RNG, at least compared to Hearthstone. Hearthstone is the worst offender of this, bar none in my opinion. In that game, you can just pull random bullshit out of nowhere, and that's not really fun. It's just random. Legends is a bit more solid in the RNG departments. Of course, there are cards that do have randomness to them, but besides a couple of instances, he got this and a random rolled something that also works with Invade.
Yeah.
It's not really too bad. The worst thing about Legends is how well the game is balanced. The devs kind of abandoned the game in a pretty unbalanced state. It would have been great if they just had one dude working part-time to tweak the game a little, but they went into maintenance mode in 2020, so the game's been in this state for 4 to 5 years. So, what should you play next? If you're now a homeless Legends player with no place to call home, I have a couple of suggestions. The best fit, gameplay-wise, is without a question Star Wars Unlimited. I'm not sponsored by FFG, although I'd love to be, please send me some cards, but this is a game I personally play quite often. Star Wars Unlimited has the same 2-lane system as Legends. There's a left lane and a right lane, and you can't attack the units in the opposite arena. Same mechanic. It uses the same 3-stat card design, with cost, attack, and health, and even the keywords are the same. Charge is ambush, breakthrough is overwhelm, guard is sentinel, ward is shielded, you get the point. These card games are very, very similar in terms of gameplay mechanics. Where it differs is obviously the genre, fantasy versus sci-fi, and that Star Wars Unlimited is actually a TCG, whereas you would consider Legends a CCG. Although you can play online, the primary focus is the real-life collecting, trading, and gameplay, similar to Pokemon. Yes, it has online gameplay against bots or real people, but the primary focus is on the physical product. I do not live in a heavily populated area of Canada, and I can find physical games to go to every week, no problem. This is an extremely fun game that I personally play every week, and I really think it's a great fit for Legends players. But if you're actually looking for another online CCG, which is technically the correct term for this genre, I'd recommend Faria. You can grab it on sale for like $3 or $5, and it has an incredibly robust PvE system. It's also abandonware, but I assume you Legends fans are probably used to that at this point. Faria's actual game mechanics are incredible, but very different to Legends. Still, 3-stat card design, but you need to actually build the board with certain terrain types to play your units. Really underrated CCG in my opinion, one of my favorites. Player count is a little low, but queue times are around 2 minutes, so it's not too bad. Unfortunately, there's no direct one-to-one substitute for the Elder Scrolls Legends. Those two are my best suggestions. It really is a special card game and one I'm gonna miss playing. I'm very happy I took the time to play this game I otherwise would have never had the chance to try. My entire YouTube channel is about trying new Elder Scrolls stuff, and although it's not Morrowind or Oblivion, it is an Elder Scrolls game. One I tragically fell in love with right before its demise. With that being said, huge thanks to my YouTube members and to you for sticking around for this long. If you're interested in other Elder Scrolls content and me trying old games for the first time, drop me a subscription and stick around. But that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching all the way to this point, and I hope to see you in the next one.